Please be advised that the content of this stream is for educational and informational purposes only. All investments and trading activities involve significant risk of loss. Past performance is not indicative of future result. I am not a financial advisor, and nothing said here should be taken as professional financial advice. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed professional before making any financial decisions. Proceed at your own risk. Please be advised that the content of this stream is for educational and informational purposes only. All investments and trading activities involve significant risk of loss. Past performance is not indicative of future result. I am not a financial advisor, and nothing said here should be taken as professional financial advice. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed professional before making any financial decisions. Proceed at your own risk. Please be advised that the content of this stream is for educational and Please be advised that the content of this stream is for educational and informational purposes only. All investments and trading activities involve significant risk of loss. Past performance is not indicative of future result. I am not a financial advisor, and nothing said here should be taken as professional financial advice. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed professional before making any financial decisions. Proceed at your own risk. All right, so let's go through a quick recap of nighttime action here. What we saw today overnight was, if we pull out the chart here, this is the 5-minute NQ. Let's pull it down actually to a 2-minute. So we saw it push above our prior area here, trying to press onto the 2600s. And then here at open, we saw that fail through. So what is this telling us based on the news? Well, we can't really make that process decision yet. We can just see what the extended hours has been doing and where they've been positioning. This is not a pattern of a long positioning chart. This is not what it looks like when you see big players positioning themselves overnight early. That would normally be a nice, slow, symmetrical grind up. We wouldn't be having these pullbacks into what's obviously a prior area of whatever you want to call it, support or resistance. Okay, so moving on from there, right? Why do we do things like this? Why do we look at these extended hours action? Most people say it doesn't matter. There's not much volume, because everything that we do is an adaptive process, right? It's liquid. It's a liquid process. So everything that we decide on is a real-time analysis of what's happening in the moment. So what is a liquid process? It's a rejection of backtesting as context. We will be unique to each moment, and variables are never identical. Therefore, what does that mean? We adapt to what we're seeing and what the regime is. So that being said, the logical next step here for us is going to be to check news, right? That makes sense. So let's take a look at what's going on Financial Juice. Let's see if we can just capture so you guys have a little better look here. Let's just capture this so it's proper. Let's see how to do this. Make it bigger for you guys. There we go. Okay. So what do we have today? Today's February 3rd. We have Fed speak. Okay, that's already done. Fed Bowman. Now we're obviously starting this pre-market late because this is a trial run. So at 1:30, we're going to have crude. So that's going to be something that we're probably going to want to take a look at right now on the charts, right? So remember, we only take a look at obviously our indices, which can be ES or NQ. We generally trade NQ here, and we will look at whatever is in play. So as far as I'm concerned, what is in play today is indices. I'll have to take a look at crude, and we'll have to see if metals are still dumping. All right. So to me, based on the political climate, right? So let's go back actually to that news source, right? Let's go back there. I don't feel like there's anything here that is a glaring red flag as to why price action might have changed. It seems that once again, when we're looking at this from a chart perspective, right? And we're looking at this, so I'm going to pull this here from an hourly chart perspective. If you really look at this, it's messy, but it's one big consolidation that we've been having between 2,500 to 2,600. We don't want to break below because the market is scared below that. It means bad things, and no one wants to break above because that would be admitting that everything is nice and kosher in the market and everything's going really well. And it's not. We all know that. There's a lot of political and policy issues. And although we may see gap ups like this based on, people trying to build a narrative on the new Fed appointee and all that, there's obviously a lot of indecision. So be ready to be seeing big washes just as we're having. Just look at the charts. This should be a warning for you. Openings are going to be messy for the next little while. Don't expect to have 100, 200, 300, 400 point washes throughout the day, if not more. But this is great if you can truly time these nice rollovers in these consolidation areas. We're going to have a good time here in this indecision. Call it major indecision, right? So think of it, instead of a small rollover, small consolidation area, we're going to have large ones. Okay, so let's moving on. I generally like to take a look at, has my narrative changed? Anything in bar charts, right? Let's take a look at the VIX. VIX, all right, 16.37 means that indices, it went down a bit, but that does not mean that it is not in play, right? So let's just pop this open real quick here. All right. Yeah, it came crushed down, but it's by no means, shape, or form not in play. As long as VIX is between 15 to 17, we know that we can trade generally the NQ. Let's take a look, though, today at if there's any. We know AMD's coming out. We saw that on Financial Juice, but is there any other substantial earnings that we can say would be interesting or market affecting, right? I'm not saying we're going to sit here and determine our entire trading day just because there's one big company. That's not a good thing to do. No, but it does not look like that is the case. Cool. So from here, we're going to move on. I'm going to quickly check RVOL. Pull out a chart here. Let's see RVOL. I like to use RVOL on the daily. This is relative volume. Now remember, everything we're doing, it has to be simple, right? So that we can repeat. It's not about making it complicated. It's about repetition, right? Building this these as Bayer talks about, is a good amazing trader, building nuance in your brain. Right. So what do we got for RVOL today? We got 1.75. Okay, so we got a 16.4 VIX. We got 1.75 RVOL on the daily. What's our oh no, sorry, our relative volume is 1.04. Our relative range is 1.75. Well, there you go. That correlates with what I was just talking about to get really ready for these big washes and reclaims, right? Like, you know, we're stuck in this where you can even see how it's starting to now consolidate, but this is a heck of a consolidation. We see ATR starting to pump up. That's pretty normal when we have these down days. Volume, you know, we're looking at 171. It's still opening bell here 30 minutes in, so nothing to write home about, but nothing to ignore either. Okay, so that's our daily. Now, what I normally like to say is, if there's nothing else particularly that has changed, there's no new news, and now we just start looking at, okay, well, based on our prior narrative from the night before, what are we looking at right now? Like, have anything changed? And as far as it goes, no, we're still looking at the same things. Capitulations back through the opens. I don't think we're going to be seeing any back through the opens today. Failure to breakouts, right? And so really, what are we looking at these charts? Well, we know what the key levels are, right? And we know that this is going to be ranging within here. So I think if anything, we would be looking at some higher time frame capitulations. As we can see, it's already starting to try to do that here. So if we pull up here to the 2 minute, you know, we're already getting pretty extended to the down, right? We had an open at 940. We're already down to 610. It looks like it's trying to start getting going. I would be taking some longs here, possibly as a tester. I could probably keep my risk pretty tight, and as a matter of fact, I think I actually will.
Order filled.
And keep that to the low there. We'll see if it finds the support it needs. Look at the price action. Nope, it's rejecting. I'm out.
Filled.
I'm not waiting for it to come through the bottom. When it starts rejecting that quickly, you can see, you know, save yourself a few points extra, right? That's okay. Anyhow, moving on. Probably should be paying more attention to price action than I am doing right now. So the next thing that we're going to be looking for, obviously, is setting up some key levels. Okay, so where are we going here? This is a good trade. We got to take a look at this here. 73,000. It's a finding consolidation. Let's move down to the 1 minute, 2 minutes. I need to have a little bit more noise here. Okay, let that one form. Let's see how this candle closes. Now, what we would be doing next here is we would be pulling up our 1 hour, right? So let's bring back that 1 hour chart. Okay, I'm going to move the 1 minute over here in case I see a trade worth taking. And from here, we're just going to mark out any real levels, right? So what I would like to do is generally look at the hour, right? Up to 4 lines in support, 4 lines in resistance, and pay attention to where we are relationship to VWAP and the 9 EMA. Realistically speaking, when you have this big of a relative range, I would not be necessarily looking. I'm going to set my razor properly here so I can hotkey these suckers. Let's see. Yeah, there's our horizontals. So we want to find the most obvious points. All right, don't overthink this, right? What would be one of the most obvious points? I would say in relation to this is probably one of the most obvious points to me, right? In relationship to breaking out of this is one of the most obvious points to me, right? And here, where we're starting to find support, is one of the most obvious points to me. You don't need to go much beyond this. You know, most people like to start talking about, oh, the options levels here, this
Order
and that.
filled.
You don't need to do this. You really don't. Okay. If you have the knowledge to do so, and there are some nice levels, great. Power to you. Go for it. But realistically speaking, it's not necessary. What you see, other people will see. And the point is, when it gets to those levels, to pay attention to the price action around them. So I just hop back in here onto this long. It looks like it's working out. We got 30 points, and I am going to take my 30
Target
points
filled.
and call it a day. Awesome. Now, when did that happen? That didn't happen out of magic. We did it together here just now in the process. I saw some capitulation coming in and volume. I was a little bit early. I saw that the price action, notice I didn't wait. I didn't have my stop at the bottom of the candle at the way. No, I looked at the price action. I let it speak to me. I said, this is now rejecting. I'm coming out. I will take my extra 5 points here. When I came back here, as we were doing the hourly, this couldn't have worked out better. We saw where it's landing on a very obvious point of support, right? Like, we didn't need to start getting into crazy technicals. It happened in real time as we were doing it together. That couldn't have been more fantastic. I pull on my 1 minute. I take a look at the candle, how it's going, the price action, the nuance of the candle. I see that it's actually found support. I bang in on a market right here. I didn't even bother hitting a bid. I wanted to get in and participate. I took 30 points. Now, if I had been really focused here and I was bullish on the day, this probably would not have been a scalp trade. It probably would have been a target trade, and I would have held that sucker for a lot longer. But that is the beauty of the system. Now, why is it that I was willing to take that capitulation and that bullish trade? It's not because I'm necessarily overwhelmingly bullish on the market. I took it because nothing has changed. The narrative has not changed. We maintain this large range of action, right, between our 2600s to 2500s. Right, because these are 1 hours, right? So actually, let's break that down to 30s because it might be a little bit easier to see, right? And obviously, our dailies, you can see that in a long-term perspective of this obvious level here, right? And then look, this is our obvious level towards the bottom, right? Now, we have to be careful in this price action because, as you can tell, it will every once in a while, and most of the time, blast past and then reclaim, blast past and then reclaim. And it's hard because, you know, people will start getting either hyper bullish or hyper bearish each time it does that, each time it wicks way past these areas. But until something dramatic has changed in the policy, in the market news, in, you know, whatever. Right now, our latest thing is pedophile island, you know, with the Epstein stuff. Like, you know, unless something magic happens there, some big news comes out, this is the range. Like, and people just have to get used to that and stop looking at the technicals in the sense of like, oh, well, you know, but okay, let's see. Let's just do this. This is what most people are going to do right now. They're going to come here. Well, look at this. We've been finding support here. It's like, yeah, like retail, like, first of all, you can see Citadel has talked about this in their reports. Retail is you know, they're real. They have power. They have buying power nowadays. Like, it's not just hedge funds and institutions. And retail knows when this shit hits the 100 moving average, we're stepping in. We're buying. We're doing this, right? They're buying the dip, right? But that doesn't mean the market's strong here, right? And I applaud you if you have a long-term portfolio and this is a strategy of yours. I also like to buy at the 100s and 200s. However, it is not necessarily indicative of strength, right? It finding support here does not mean big picture that everything's great. Now, I'm not a perma bear by any means, shape, or form. That's not what I'm saying. But this, to me, is not reading like we are a hyper bullish market. Now, you know, of course, the technicians will be like, yeah, but we're making higher highs and we're pressing. And look, I believe that there's a vested interest for this market to always infinitely go up, right? It's politics. So do I believe that it makes sense that this thing could continue to make higher highs and form this flat top where it presses, curls, and then explodes over because of whatever bullshit news they happen to make at the time? I absolutely do. You know, at the end of the day, you should always be more bullish than bearish, right? Because the the powers that be want this shit to go up, right? But how we get there matters a lot, and we're intraday traders, right? So you can't just be like, well, we're bullish, right? It's like, yeah, but how are we doing this? I mean, watch this price action right now here. This is the daily chart. We're already coming back down to that area of support, right? That's why I didn't hold my long there. That's why I took that as a 30-point scalp. Like, these are things, and once again, you have to start reading this, being like, okay, like, is there something that I'm missing? Is there a piece that's missing? I mean, I could be. I'm talking to you right now. There could be some news right now that I'm missing right now that has changed the value of where the market believes value lies, right? But this could just be price discovery, or it could just be fuckery. You don't really know. Nonetheless, this is it. This is good for a first time pre-market analysis. Next time, we're going to go into a little bit more detail about how to watch the pre-market equities to kind of see if there's any of the big movers doing anything crazy, the Teslas, Nvidias, and stuff like this, and how it can give us a tiny little bit of more narrative on the Qs. All right. Good luck out there, guys. Okay, I did a rough pre-market video that I uploaded.